Dangerous and deadly opponents. Okay, let's go back to that good feeling that I was telling you about that everybody describes differently. See, I had more to say about that I didn't get into, and maybe a whole 10 minutes worth, because that's what it's all about. When I cured my herpes, I discovered that a bad feeling I had disappeared. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the good feeling that we're talking about isn't a good feeling. It's actually your normal state. And the thing that prevents you from experiencing it continually are bad feelings. And all these bad feelings are connected. And there's one of them that's generated by the herpes simplex 1 virus, the oral herpes virus. There is a very specific bad feeling that that virus causes that is not describable in words. So when you're with your friend, and you take out your herpes and tell your friend how you feel, and your friend's saying, "How do you feel?" And you'll sound like Christy, and you'll be saying, "Really good, relaxed, and whatever, But you won't be able to say what this feeling is that disappeared, the bad feeling, the feeling you're not supposed to have, the feeling that means you're sick. And by the way, let's say your boyfriend stands you up when you're waiting for him at a restaurant, and he's either late or he's never shows up or whatever, or he breaks up with you, and you feel bad. I'm going to tell you something. This is going to be very hard to accept, but that's not normal. The normal way to feel is fine about that. The normal way to feel is, I don't need him to be here. The normal way to feel, if he's late, for example, is to enjoy yourself in the restaurant and do whatever you're doing and have fun. Your entire life should be one long experience of joy. Now, you may be looking at me and saying, but, you don't look like you're, experiencing one long experience of joy. And to which I will reply, I may not look it, but this is what I look like when I'm in joy, okay? So I get to look like this, and you don't get to say anything about it. This, for me, is joy. Whatever I look like right now is joy. This is it. So you don't necessarily have to look like you're in joy to be in joy. And I'm not telling you should look that way. I'm telling you that you should be that way. And if you're not, it means you're sick. There's something wrong with you. Now that wrong thing might be an emotion. It might be hormonal. But all these things, there are three areas: physical, mental, and spiritual. Physical, emotional, and spiritual. Mental, emotional, whatever. Those three areas affect, control each other, and if you're compromised in one, you're going to be compromised in all of them. So the thing I'm going to tell you now is you can't be compromised in any of these areas, ever. And especially not while herpes is in your body dying off for 2 years. So the next 2 years, you're going to have to be really on, okay? If you actually want to prevent yourself from getting a heart attack at the age of 46 from the HSV-1 virus, which is what it does. That's what it does. Or it gives you uterine cancer or whatever, If you're a guy, you'll get a heart attack, Thank God I cured my herpes in 1993. I'm 63. I was a prime candidate for prostate cancer or whatever, especially since I took a lot of LSD back in the 1960s, and those people who took a lot of LSD, they got prostate cancer. That's one thing it did. It caused prostate cancer. Didn't show up for 40 years. But let me tell you, if you're 22, 40 years goes by like that. It's just where did it go, God, I feel like just yesterday I was... You don't want to hear that, I know. I don't either. So... I'll hang a sharp right here. Okay, good. what I see is a lot of slipshod, lackadaisical people who are letting themselves get away with murder. You know? And one way to prevent that, by the way, is just to get yourself a support group and, you know, do this with them together, you know, like once a week or something. But don't make that your time to do it. Like, that's another mistake they make, you know. People get support groups and they say, okay, well, like on Thursday night, I'll take my herpes out. No! You take your herpes out in the car at 70 miles an hour on your way to work. You take your herpes out the minute you wake up in the morning. You do not tolerate a bad feeling ever. Like, if you don't get the promotion at that moment, you check yourself. And by the way, see this book? Okay. This book is going to tell you a lot more than I did. And also, it's got the list of bodies and the list of pathologies. And your basic procedure for curing herpes, or at least your when I say basic, may have to do a lot more than this, but your basic things are, pretend I have the list of pathologies in this hand and the list of bodies in this hand. Most of these pathologies are not herpes, but they interfere with you being able to remove the herpes completely. So you find the pathologies you have, then you find the body the pathology is in, and you take the pathology out of all the bodies that it's in, and you do that with all the pathologies. And then 5 minutes later, when you test, you'll test that you have different pathologies because, you know, some get accessible as others come out. And when you test, you have no pathologies, which can be done in like 5 minutes, just with the 5 minutes. Once you get going with this, you know, at first it's going to probably take you an hour to go through them. But at some point, it'll just be like real fast. You know, you just find the ones, take them out, and then you take out the herpes. And you take the herpes out of all the bodies it's in. And I was finding herpes in my spiral and gravitational bodies, as I said before, for, you know, maybe up to 2 years after. And I tell you what, if it's in the spiral body, it's going to get in the DNA. And if it gets in the DNA, you're dead. You got herpes, you know, because then you're going to have a physical outbreak. And meanwhile, you got the virus hiding somewhere in your physical body anyway, waiting, you know, for that correlate to come in to signal it to, yes, time to outbreak now. It's a DNA phenomenon. Herpes is a DNA phenomenon. So, and another way is to be responsible. You know, to be a responsible person, which means every day in every way you possibly can, you tell every person you possibly can again that they can cure things until they get it. Because they generally don't get it until about the 20th or 30th repetition. Because this is an alien reality to people. Like, they just, you know, and they're not skeptical. They don't, like, argue with you. They don't say, you can't do that. You know, generally what they say is, oh, wow, that's really great. Oh, good for you. Oh, that's wonderful. You know, they like never relate it. Like, I should take out this flu virus that I have. They just don't relate it, you know, until you tell them again and again and again and again and again. So, and that's what a responsible person does. And that's why we have bumper stickers, because every time you see this bumper sticker on your car, you will remember that you are a responsible person and you do not tolerate feeling bad in any way ever. So putting one on the back window of your car or wearing a shirt that, you know, has basically the same thing as this on it, it is your way of telling you what you need to know, you know, to stay conscious. Because it's very easy not to be conscious. I've done a lot of waffling too, you know, I have to say. I'm one of the wafflers of the world. We have to stick together.